it's the only one that you have to justify not taking. Oh, I'm not going to do any coke tonight, boys. Like, like, okay. Oh, I'm not drinking tonight. What do you mean? What's wrong? If you're good friends, they might still neg you a little bit, but they'll understand.
Yeah.
If they don't and they carry on the abuse, they're not a friend, they're a drinking buddy. Harsh reality.
Hi, Adam. Welcome to the show today. Now, you work with people to gain sort of peak performance, and I know you predominantly do this through working with people to reduce their alcohol consumption, maybe take a break or give up completely. Now, how did you get into that? What's your story and your feelings around alcohol, which means you do what you do today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. So I've got a very different view to a lot of people around alcohol because I worked around it for 14 years in hospitality. So there's a lot of alcohol-free coaches out there now, but not many of them have gone the path that I have. So I saw everything that you can possibly imagine over that time. I've worked in high-end bars, late-night bars, restaurants, etc. I've seen the subtlety of that guy that comes in after work and has 2 beers and goes home, but then his life becomes progressively worse because he's a regular, and that's all he would have. He wouldn't, they'd be very honest and open with you, so they wouldn't necessarily go home and drink 6 or 7 beers and all that good stuff. It just means that they come in, have a couple, go home. What's wrong with that? People say to me, it's just moderation. Now, I've seen other people completely ruin their lives drastically, and this isn't alcoholics. This is on company parties. This could be the CEO trying it on with the receptionist. This could be 2 colleagues having a fight. I've seen 2 people die in front of me. I've seen about 10, maybe 15 people get glassed. I've seen people get stabbed. I've seen people, mass brawls that you would probably relate to a film that you've seen. Yeah. Marriages ending, careers ending. So people go, oh, that's a bit extreme, isn't it? I'm like, no. I grew up in a nice town called Harrogate. It's very posh. This isn't the arse end of a rough city. This is a nice area, and these things happened. Yes, I worked in Leeds. Yes, I worked in Newcastle. Yes, I did work in some vibrant cities as well. However, a lot of the challenges that I saw over the years were just as bad in any bar because it's alcohol. It's a drug.
Yeah.
So this isn't alcoholics in the stereotypical sense of people scrambling for empty bottles of vodka. This is a guy, for instance, that's come in after work, works in an office, came for 1 or 2 beers with his mate. He stayed till 11 o'clock. And then he's just made these ridiculous decisions because it's compounded over time. So the most common thing that people say to me is, I don't drink and I'm fine. Sorry, I do drink and I'm fine, rather. So why would I want to stop? So I'm like, well, first and foremost, I work with people to achieve peak performance, performing at their highest level. If you've never abstained from alcohol, then you won't know how good you can feel. It's kind of like when a child says, I don't like carrots, having never tried it. You don't know. Yeah. So if you gave yourself that 30, 60, 90-day break, you'll start to see so many benefits, not only for your health, but also for your mindset, your performance, your output at work, how you show up for your kids, etc., etc. So when people say, well, what's wrong with a couple of beers now and again? I say, well, nothing. And I don't care if people drink, mate. I'm not here to wear my sandwich board and ring my bell and go, preach in the city centres on an evening. I'm not interested in that. But I get so many people message me saying, I wish I could stop, implying that they can't because they're fearful and all this other stuff. And the problem with moderation is it's subjective. So if we look at compound numbers, so I've had a few people over the years, more than a few actually, tens of people argue with me about certain things. One person might say, I have 1 beer a night. What's wrong with that? I'm thinking, well, that's 365 beers a year. Person number 2 says, I have 2 beers a night. What's wrong with that? 730 beers.
Yeah.
Right? And then you go, someone else might say, I have 1 beer a week. 52 beers. The 52 and the 730 are obviously very, very different.
Yeah.
But people will look internally at their personal situation and then use it as a blanket statement. So they might have 1 beer a week or 2 beers a week, and they might go to High Rocks and CrossFit and eat really well and track their sleep and do all this other good stuff. And then they go, well, I've got a 6-pack or I've got a successful business and I drink. Number one, amazing, well done you. But number two, you could perform even better. And if you're not bothered by that, then I'm not the coach for you. That's fine. But I only work with people that want to constantly improve and want to evolve and change. So, like I said, mate, it's not that there's a preachy message here. It's if you are looking to get better in anything, it's the first thing that I'd recommend is abstaining for a long period of time. And then you can start to build other healthy habits along the way. So, yeah. My relationship with it personally is very complex, but I grew up like most people did from the age of, when you're younger, you see the adults with a beer, and then you might try a bit of dad's beer when you're at the pub when you're like 8 or 9, which is wild in itself. And then you go down the park with your mates at like 14, drinking cans and bottles of vodka and whatnot. And then it progresses, and you might put your best shirt on and go out with your friends on the town at 16, and because some bars might serve you. And then some people go to university and they're like, right, I'm at my parents' house. I can drink as much as I want now. And they'll go do 3 trebles for a £5 or whatever. Yep. And then after a while, it then becomes somewhat of a dependency. So through your 20s and then early 30s. And now people are going, I don't know how to actually socialize without it because it makes me confident, air quote. It doesn't make you more confident, it makes you more loud, or it might make you more reckless and you don't realize it. So, yeah, it's a very complex relationship that we, as a society, especially in the Western world, that we have with alcohol. And it's causing so many issues for people, and they don't often realize it. So that's why I need to dive deep into why they drink, where the story began. Can we take a break? Can we put some healthy habits on top? Then we can start to improve performance after that 30 to 60-day period.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the key bit, that peak performance. Like you say, if someone won't give up that 1 beer a week, then whatever. But to reach peak performance, actually, you are taking a drug. Now, I guess you mentioned it in there, certainly Western culture, but certainly in the UK, it's often said we have a drinking culture. Drink is tied to almost every celebration. In fact, almost every negative. You go to a wake and you're a drink. Yeah, there's almost any excuse we add alcohol into the mix. And certainly, do you think there's that sort of? Yeah, I've heard it before. That social expectation. If you say you're not drinking, it's almost like you get an odd look. It seems to be the one drug that actually you get an odd look if you don't take.
Yeah.
Do you think culture is a big part of it?
Yeah, of course it is. When people stop smoking, they get a round of applause. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to pigeonhole and say every person gets ridiculed when they stop. They don't, but
no.
A lot of people do. We were working with a senior policeman based in North Yorkshire about 2 years ago, and they went to a staff party at Christmas, and other policemen were physically grabbing his head and trying to pour Jägermeister into his mouth when they were intoxicated as well. The policeman's going, no, stop. And they were going, no. And you're like, now, I'm not going to compare this to assault or anything of the like, but you're doing something against somebody's will forcefully. How is that too much different, especially when you're pouring a drug down the throat? It's wild. And, it's the only one that you have to justify not taking. Oh, I'm not going to do any coke tonight, boys. like, like, okay. Oh, I'm not drinking tonight. What? What do you mean? What's wrong? Like, nothing's wrong. I'm just not drinking. Don't be a pussy, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
That's common practice with a lot of people because it's holding up the mirror to their own insecurity. Because, mate, honestly, the thing is, we're a pack animal, right? We're a pack species. Yeah. When we're separated from the pack, we feel vulnerable. I know because I've worked with over 500 people one-to-one. This is lawyers, this is CEOs, professional athletes, you name it. People that are performing at the highest level and some others that aren't, but by and large, they come to me and they tell me these things. So I know that if you hooked most of their friends up to a lie detector test and said, do you want to stop drinking alcohol? And they said, no, I know it would buzz because I'm dealing with people over and over. But they don't want to be the one. They don't want to be the one to say, I'm stepping away from this because they're fearful of loss of love. They're fearful of loss of connection. And loneliness is one of the biggest epidemics going at the moment. It's an absolute, travesty. So I have understanding, I have empathy, I have compassion for people that are in this mindset. I'm not ridiculing them. Of equally, I don't want to contribute in the negative way and go, oh, stop being an idiot, stop drinking, because that's still shaming somebody. But the thing as well, mate, is that people shame people that stop and go, you must have had a problem. You're like, I didn't have a problem in the literal sense of, again, scrambling for cans of beer, but it caused me problems. Without doubt, it caused me problems. And it's causing you problems if you're drinking, but you don't know it. And it ruins your sleep. It ruins your skin quality. It ruins your productivity levels. You're not as present at home. You become more anxious. You become more irritable. There's lots of things happening on your insides that you're not seeing. It's categorically destroying. So not just the behavioral stuff of not being present at home and not being productive, but the physical and the health, damage it's doing. Oh my God. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's, I give people fact, not opinion, when it comes to what it's doing, and then people tell you you're wrong.
Okay, I mean, I think we're coming to a few of the facts of what alcohol is doing to your body, but just to go back that thing of that culture, I guess there's that double thing of, one, you don't want to feel left out. And equally for people who, like you say, you said about confidence and things, alcohol does all to you. And you told that story of people sort of trying to pour drink down someone that just wouldn't do that when they were sober. It changes the way you behave. And, I have seen, we'll see memes that, all good stories start with, alcohol and things like that. And it's not necessarily it's a good story. It's just things have happened that have been outrageous because they're not how we normally behave.
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. And the thing is as well, right? What's so interesting is that when you do see it from the perspective of the bar manager or bartender or what have you, you'll see at some of the venues I used to manage, it would be one of those places where it was open till, say, 1 a.m., but the next morning you come and have brunch and lunch and stuff like that. So it's, an all day kind of thing, but on the evening it got a bit more lively. And I remember one specific example. There's a group of 5 lads, really friendly, really outgoing. They were quite pleasant until they weren't, right? Until later on. One of them ended up passing out in the corner. One of them came in the next morning for brunch because we're staying in a hotel like 5 minutes away from the bar with a black eye. One of them was on the phone outside. You could hear him sort of arguing with his partner. Anyway, long story short, what had actually happened was, because I'd seen most of this unfold apart from the black eye incident, one of the guys had cheated on his partner. One of the guys had passed out and actually thrown up in the corner, which we had to obviously clean up. Awesome. After they left, one of the other guys got in a fight. But the next morning at brunch, like, oh, best night ever. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, I saw what was happening. The first hour when, you've had maybe 2 or 3 and the music's going and they might be talking to a group of girls and stuff and you're having a good time, that bit might be the clicked bit that you remember as the good bit. But the rest of it, oh my God, like they were just slurring words. They were bumping into each other. It's not the best night ever. People were telling him to fuck off because they were bothering them. And then after they've left us, they got into a fight and all this other stuff. This guy's having to explain to his partner that, he's cheated on her and whatever. The other guy is in an absolute state. The other guy's now got a black eye. Was it the best night ever, lads?
Yeah, so, it's really interesting how people continue to consume, because I've read about this and heard about this before, that and I've had it. You have 1 pint and it it releases that dopamine. You might relax, you feel good, and you think, if I have another one, I'm going to get that hit again, but you don't. And then you think, well, I'll have one more because that might give me that initial thing, and it's that slippery slope where you can see on a night like that. Actually, they had 1 or 2 pints, were chatting away, having a great time. They wanted that to continue and therefore kept drinking more and more and more, not realizing actually that, it's degrading the night.
Yeah, that's it. And again, you might have some people listening right now going, I have a glass of red wine with a steak on a weekend. What are you talking about, mate? But that's, again, the examples I'm giving here aren't extreme. This isn't, lads going out every single night drinking 12 pints. This is just a group of lads that have gone away for the weekend and they've just got, some people go, I've got a bit tiddly. No. They got absolutely shit-faced. But
Yeah.
even that guy who is the CEO and he's running the business well, here's an example. So again, we're working with someone, he manages 800 staff, they turn over 60 million quid every year. When he came to us, he said, I know it's holding me back, but I'm not really sure how. And we talked to him about Whoop bands to track your sleep or, some form of tracker. So I said, right, what we're going to do, mate, is I actually want you to have your normal glass of red. This is after he'd got his Whoop band. And I want you to see how well you've recovered tomorrow and how well you slept. Then what we're going to do is we're going to abstain for 2 days and then we're going to see the sleep after that. Okay? That's a good metric. Would you agree? He said, absolutely. Are you comfortable with not drinking for 1 or 2 nights? Yeah, for sure. I'll do it all the way through the week anyway. No problem. So for those of you that don't know the Whoop scores, I won't bore you to tears, but essentially you have your sleep score, you have recovery, and you have strain levels, which gives you an idea of how well you're feeling today and what you need to do today to achieve best performance. So he had 1 glass of red wine. His sleep performance was about 52%, and he was 30% recovered. And he didn't even do a workout that day, which are pretty bad as metrics.
Yeah.
The next day, he went for a 10K run. He also did like a separate walk with his family. Didn't drink. His sleep score went to 78%, and his recovery went to about 74 in 1 day. The next day, he didn't drink again. He still exercised and he drank water and he did all the good stuff. His sleep score went to 88% and his recovery was about, again, high 80s, 90s. And he said, surely, Adam, it can't just be down to the alcohol. And I said, right, can I be honest with you? He said, yes, you're a very successful man. You run a very big business and you're killing it. Would you ignore data like this within your business? And he said, no. I said, so what is making you look at this data and disregard it? Let's get into the depths of it. Again, long story short, doesn't feel good enough, doesn't know how to handle stress, under loads of pressure, really looks forward to that glass of red wine because he thinks it's giving him something. And too many people have a positive attachment to alcohol. So they might say, I'm stressed, I need a few beers, when in actual fact, the beers are probably causing the stress in the first place. If you have a few beers, right, and when people open that beer when they get home from a hard day, and it goes, and then you drink and you go, ah. Do you know how many people don't breathe through the nose or let out a deep breath in a positive way through the day? Loads of people are sighing, right? They're going, but they're not doing with a positive outlook. So they're not going, It takes about 6 minutes for your brain to register it's actually consuming alcohol. So it's the attachment to the cold, refreshing drink as opposed to what you perceive the alcohol to be doing. So that's not relaxing you whatsoever. You'd get the exact same effect from an alcohol-free beer or even a can of Diet Coke, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Right? Like actual physiologically, not belief systems at this stage. Because belief-wise, people are going, fuck off, mate, Diet Coke wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But scientifically it will, right? Because it's the attachment of the, isn't that better? Then you might have a few more beers. Now your sleep is ruined. And let's say you want to wake up at 7 and your kids come in at 6 screaming, oh God, you're really agitated and you've got all this brain fog going on. And then you might get downstairs, you check your email, your boss might have emailed you something a bit shitty or a client might have said something that you didn't like. And then you get stuck in traffic and then you go to the office and then Diane is moaning about the traffic and then you're getting stressed by Diane moaning about the traffic, and then another client says something that you didn't like. Oh, no, I didn't prep my lunch because I was drinking beers last night. Then you get stuck in traffic on the way home, and the kids are running up to you screaming again. Oh, God, I've had such a bad day. I need a beer. No.
And there we go. It's that cycle. Yeah.
Honestly, I mainly coach men over 40 years old, and some of them, when I ask them, what's the longest period that you've ever abstained from alcohol from the age of, I don't know, 16, what do you think the most common answer is in terms of days?
2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them say, oh, maybe a week. A
Yeah.
week in 25 years, some cases. Some cases it's 30 years, mate. The longest period they've abstained from alcohol might be 4 or 5 days or a week.
Yeah, because people would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, but Thursday night, if you worked in an office, you know, Thursday after work is drinks, Friday afternoon is drinks all out, Saturday is drinks, Sunday is pub roast and drinks, and then yeah, I can see how you'd have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're back into that cycle. And it's interesting that, you know, we spoke about sleep there on one drink. And I have heard this before. One drink can, you know, interrupt your sleep. Most people probably, without tracking that data, don't actually know that, and don't put the sleep down to that one drink because it's not physical. And I guess you mentioned about some of the physical parts of alcohol. You know, your skin and things like that. Is that when people maybe realize that they really are drinking too much, and people who are just having 1 or 2 drinks don't realize the impact that it's having?
Absolute nail on the head, mate. It's what's known as the region beta paradox. Things have to get worse for people to take action. And unfortunately, the thing with alcohol, like with smoking, I mean, smoking, yes, okay, people might cough a bit more and that kind of thing. But generally speaking, there's not that many immediate detrimental effects internally. Smoking hasn't necessarily ruined many marriages, for instance. Alcohol has. Smoking doesn't make people more aggressive. Alcohol does. Smoking doesn't make people, you know, doesn't ruin people's sleep, but alcohol does. So the thing is that it will be subtly tripping them up day to day with their behaviors, but they aren't aware of it, perhaps. They might not know that their wife is getting annoyed that they're not being very present. They might not know that their partner's getting annoyed that they're too hungover to take the kids to football practice on a Saturday. Or they might just brush it off and go, yeah, sorry, love, next weekend I'm going to not bother. And it gets to Friday, oh, I'll have a few. We all have different levels of pain threshold. And for some people, let's say weight loss is an example. For some people, they might just try on their favorite pair of jeans and realize that they can't do the button up anymore. And they go, shit, I need to get back in the gym. Other people's level of pain is the doctor says, if you don't stop, I'm going to be operating on you in 6 months because you're going to have a heart attack. Some people will be on that operation table. Some people would rather die than change.
Yeah.
So everyone has a different threshold, mate. And the thing is that, unfortunately, in some cases, people, again, will point to what they see. For instance, well, my grandmother drank every day and she smoked and she died at 88. Great. What quality of life did they have? What's, you know, again, so it's that, yeah, the downside is that people that don't abstain go, I feel fine, but they don't know how good they can feel. So when we did a corporate training for someone, one of the senior leaders said, I smoke 6 beers a day. I drink 10 cigarettes a day, but I'm happy. I said, interesting. He said, what do you mean? Because I don't like to ridicule people in front of large groups, obviously.
No.
But I just put a pin in it, and I spoke to him afterwards. And I said, do you wake up in the morning feeling like quite groggy? Oh, well, yeah, but I'm 50, so who doesn't? So, okay. How are your sort of health goals coming along right now? Can you run any distance or anything like that? Because I know that you said you wanted to get back into running. Nah, I could probably do 1 or 2K max. Okay. Is your back quite stiff in the morning? He's like, yeah, but again, you know, I'm 50 years old, Adam. This is just the norm. So what he'd done is he'd created a story in his mind about this is what happy is without realizing there's another way to live, because some people won't take action as well because they tell me that they're in the comfort zone. There's nothing comfortable about it, but it's familiar. So it's the familiar zone. But just because it's
familiar zone. That's
just
because
it's familiar doesn't mean it's good. You just you know the pain. You know the pain of bad sleep. You know the pain of, you know, your skin not looking great. You know the pain of not being able to fit into your clothes. But you don't know the pain of your friends going, go on, mate, have a few beers. You don't know the pain of abstaining. You don't know the pain of sitting with your emotions without having to mask it with a liquid. So in this instance, he just didn't realize there was another way to live because he didn't know, because he'd never done it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You mentioned there about that threshold and things like that. And it's, I guess, again, you mentioned about your friends saying, go and have another drink and things like that. I guess which one's more painful for a lot of people? Like they might even start to notice, actually, I'm putting on a bit of weight, or I feel a bit groggy after a night out. But I would rather deal with that pain than saying to my friends, "Oh no, I'm not drinking tonight," or missing out on that night out, or whatever. Feeling maybe, oh, it's not going to be a good night because I'm not drinking, and so on. So I guess there needs to be that change. I want to talk just very quickly about weight loss. You said about that because of course one thing we don't realize, alcohol, it does have calories in it, but they're almost sort of pointless calories. We need food to live, and you need to eat to live, but actually we're just chucking extra calories in for ourselves. And actually a pint of beer has quite a few, so if you go out and drink quite a lot on a Friday night, you probably wouldn't try and eat that amount after already having a meal.
Yeah, mate. The thing is, people look at me like I've got two heads when I tell them to drink 2 or 3 litres of water, but that's 4 pints is 2 litres. How many people?
Yeah.
4 pints. 4 pints, nothing on a night out. Average person might be drinking 5, for instance, or 6. So that's 3 litres of beer in a 5-hour, 6-hour period. If you go on to the assumption that it's like a pint an hour, give or take. So, but you're right. When you have, I don't know, let's say Domino's pizza, granted, there's not a lot of health benefits, because some people say that to me as well. There's health benefits to drinking a glass of red wine. No, there isn't. The benefit that you'd get from the grapes and the air quote antioxidants, you'd need to consume about 50 glasses of wine to get any form of benefit. So that's like saying, oh, my Domino's is really healthy because I've got a chopped up pepper on it. It's not.
Yeah.
But at least food is doing something. That's why when people drink, the beer belly, or they get this extra chin underneath here, it's where it goes to, especially on men. I know quite a lot of women that are pretty slim, but they drink quite a bit, and they've got like a little bit of a double chin because the alcohol, it's almost like dead weight here. It offers, as you said, it offers nothing. So we say to people, like, look at habit hacking. What's your current habit? Oh, well, I get in from work. Some people drink more at home than they do out with their friends, for instance. So I get home from a stressful day at work, and then I'll have a beer, and then after that, I get a bit snacky, so I might have a packet of crisps, and then whatever. So now the one beer, again, might turn to 2, then it might turn to crisps, then it might turn to sweet things because, the sugar cravings and what have you.
Yeah.
You've now consumed 800 or 900 extra calories. And if people are doing that every day and they're wondering why they can't lose weight, and they go, oh, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to sweat it out in the sauna. Sweating in a sauna doesn't detox you. That's what your skin does. That's what your liver's there for. They're the only things that detox you. Sweating and sitting in a sauna does not do that. So apple cider vinegar does not do that. It's all this sort of nonsense that people come out with. So yeah, we want to
come out to justify it. But I need, you mentioned the habit stacking, because actually quite often when I've spoken to people about habit stacking, we're talking in a positive way. You do this and you do this, and it helps you build habits. I can now see, of course, we do it in that negative way. And, I've been guilty of it in the past. Actually, a couple of beers makes probably my diet go out, because actually then I quite fancy some crisps. And then you have a couple more beers, and then the following morning, because you feel a bit groggy, you think, well, I need a fry up, and then you have that, and so on and so on. And actually you've stacked some of those unhealthy habits together, all caused by that initial one of having a few too many beers.
That's exactly it, mate. So there's habit hacking, there's habit stacking, and there's habit tracking. So habit hack, look at the habit that you're currently doing, and then you want to replace it with something healthier. So I say to people, I don't want you to stop getting home, putting the jacket on the hook, putting the bag down, going to the fridge, cracking open a cold one. All I want you to do is replace it with Heineken Zero instead of Heineken.
Yeah.
Right? So then you can still have the, isn't that better? It's a third of the calories and doesn't make you out like a dick. So good, right? Now, habit stacking is if you are feeling, really lethargic, let's say, People are really overweight and the thought of going to a gym is extremely overwhelming. No problem. Can you go out for a walk? Of course. While you're out for your walk, why don't you maybe listen to a positive audiobook or a podcast? So you've stacked a habit on top of a healthy one. Fantastic. Habit tracking, to be honest with you, mate, is quite advanced, and a lot of people won't do this, but it's literally tracking what you're doing throughout the course of the day so you can start to become more consciously aware of your behaviors. So, for instance, and just be really honest with yourself, I had to do this, and it is over time, it's life-changing. You won't see it instantaneously, but over time, and I don't do it every day now or whatever, but I needed to do something to address where I was. So in the morning, wake up. Oh, I scrolled for 20 minutes this morning. Shit. Then what did I do? Well, then I went to the toilet and scrolled a bit more. Okay, then what did I do? I don't know, really. I went downstairs and put the news on. Right, then what happened? And you're like, shit. So straight away, I'm going, right, okay, there's a thing that's going wrong here. So right, I need to start leaving my phone out of the room. And in the morning when I wake up, it's not the first thing that I'm reaching for, because we are designed to do that. So then I can go downstairs and then I can maybe journal, or I can meditate, and I can regulate my emotions before opening my phone. Fantastic. I've now hacked a different habit, and I've tracked that I've done that, and it's actually benefiting me in a more helpful way. But again, that's more advanced stuff. What I look at as a starting point is the habit hack. Then we can bring in the stack, and then we can bring in the tracking. But initially, we have to understand what exactly it is that you're doing through the course of the day so we can change a new behavior. Implement a new behavior or change an old one.
Yeah. I mean, exactly like you said with the data, and the CEO had, got the score, the sleep score, etc. You've got to know the data to then know what you should be changing. Otherwise, you're just guessing. And quite often we're quite autonomous, aren't we? In the way we do lots of things. We've built up habits over the time. I know the classic example is like doing your teeth. It's just you get up and you do your teeth. It's sort of just built in. We don't have to overthink about it. But actually drinking 2 liters of water, for me now, that's a habit. I just do it. In fact, I do way more than 2 liters every day. But at first, I bought a bottle that would track it, so I knew I'd fill that up in the morning, and then I could see how much I drank, and it was visual. Otherwise, you're not really too sure how much you've drunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. And unfortunately, we're living in the day and age where you can make anything sound stupid. So as a rough metric, I say to people, drink 1 litre per 25 kilograms of your body weight. That's
okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I weigh probably 105 kilos. I live a very active lifestyle. I'll get 10 to 12K steps most days, not every single day. I will go to the gym, or I will play tennis, or I will play football, and I'll do mobility and what have you to make sure I recover. Because my main goal now, I'm approaching 37. I want to make sure that when I do get to 50, I'm not waking up going, oh, fucking hell. So I'm working towards that always. Now, I will lose a very large amount of water throughout the course of the day, and I need that amount of water. Again, this is I wake up at 6 and I go to bed at 10, and I stop drinking water at around 8:30. So I've got a 14-hour window. It's not saying you have to drink 3 liters of water within the first 2 hours of waking up and you're peeing every 3 seconds, right? It works out roughly at it's 8 pints. So it's a pint every 2 hours. It's not that bad.
It doesn't sound a lot at all.
No, well, maybe every, if we're going to get pernickety, 90 minutes. But anyway, I did a post on LinkedIn saying, this is the rough amount of water you'd like to consume, yada, yada, yada. And someone said, I'm clinically obese. If I drank, they said 8 liters of water, which I'll come to in a second. If I drank 8 liters of water, I'd be in hospital. And I thought, I don't work with people that are 30 stone in weight. It's not me ridiculing them. And yes, you're right. But I'm obviously not aiming it at you.
Nice.
The difficulty is when you post on social media, you leave yourself wide open. And her right in that moment to have freedom of speech doesn't outweigh my right to post, and vice versa. She can post. If I post and she can comment, no problem. It doesn't ruin my day. But you could go on like this. You could go, Nike, just do it. Just do it. I've got 4 kids and I work a 12-hour day. Fucking hell.
Yeah. So it's very, very easy to almost argue with yourself a lot of the time, because anything we see is quite often an opinion. And, even something that's factually correct, you can say, yeah, but because the world isn't really sort of black and white, is it? There are lots of variables, and that's the thing. But you're talking general, and also talking to people who clearly are performing at a high level, but just not the highest level they could necessarily be at, and that's who you're aiming, your main message to. Although drinking more water is one that can actually hit the majority of people. It's a very simple change you can make.
Yeah, 100%, mate. When I go on podcasts, people say, what's the one thing that, people need to do to perform better? I'm like, honestly, drink more water. It's like, because it gives you so many benefits. I'm not going to bore people with it, but the benefits are somewhat endless of drinking water. But, again, it's often a mirror that people get frustrated at, because they go, shit, you might be talking to me here. But I don't get, offended by it when people criticize or whatever, because again, it's just their opinion, whatever. I also, and this is a bit of a tidbit for anyone listening, when you're in a conversation or when you're in an interview, you don't have to say, in my opinion. I think it weakens people's positions. Obviously, it's your opinion because you're saying it.
Yeah.
Because if I say a statement and someone goes, oh, yeah, in your opinion, I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Of course. See, or punditry, in my opinion, or for me, just for me, I think, blah, 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 blah. As soon as you say, I think, I know what you think, because you just fucking said it. So you don't need to explain yourself and weaken your position when it comes to
making a statement. You can remove words and actually the statement still stands.
Correct. I don't buy into this whole no is a full sentence. I'm like, yeah, but you'd be a bit of a dick. Yeah. Well, you're coming out tonight, mate. It'd be great to celebrate our anniversary. No, I don't buy into that. But I do think that people often dance around their opinions in the fear of offending somebody. But more often than not, especially when you're talking about some topics like this, it's not offensive. You might find it offensive, but it's not offensive. You were offended. It's very different. Yeah. If people are spouting hate speech and things like that, no, absolutely, then yeah, that probably is offensive by and large.
Yeah, call people out, but
correct.
You're right. Just, almost what offends you might not offend me, and vice versa. It's all subjective. And actually, it's just opinions, isn't it? Which I know you said you don't have to say it's your opinion. That's fine. If you think differently, cool. No problem.
That's exactly it. And Jordan Peterson said that, when he was getting grilled by somebody. And he said, to be able to think, you need to risk being offensive. Because how do we move the needle on anything if we're just going to all agree with each other? Because quite quickly we won't then agree with each other, and it's good to have difference of opinion. And when people say, when it comes to removing alcohol, I'll frequently get, you're wrong. It's all about moderation. I always respond with, I'm not wrong, but neither are you. The difference is I've got data to say when you do drink even moderately, it does impact your performance. So if you don't care, no problem.
Yes.
If you decide,
it's all about that. How do you want to perform, isn't it? You can't discount that data that even a small amount of alcohol will impact your performance. And I guess, like you say, if you're cool with that, then okay, not the right person to be working with you, but the people who work with you actually want to peak performance, and therefore it's optimizing all parts of your body. And exactly like you said, people do grow old having never gone to the gym, drank alcohol, maybe being a little bit overweight, and they still make a fairly old age. Doesn't necessarily mean they were in peak performance or it couldn't have been better.
That's exactly it. And also, again, if I was to sit with them one-to-one in a room and ask them directly, are you genuinely happy and fulfilled? And again, if people say yes, cool. Because there's going to be exceptions to almost anything, always, right? And that's the issue, that when you put out a mass message, it's always going to be ridiculed. But I'm okay with it, genuinely. It doesn't ruin my day if Dave from Scunthorpe thinks I'm wrong about alcohol. I get abuse regularly on TikTok and Instagram. And I mean abuse, not just I think you're wrong. They're telling you to shut the up and they're calling you every name under the sun. Okay, no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you've got freedom of speech too. So, if people comment on my LinkedIn posts and stuff and they're outright abusive, then I don't want to invite them into my personal space by responding to them because they're obviously just a bit of an idiot or they've woken up on the wrong side of the bed that day. I will just delete it. But I can just delete and block them and remove them anyway, because you're guaranteed that if I'm face to face with them, they're not going to say it.
No.
Because that's how we are.
People have got very brave behind a keyboard. Face to face is a slightly different kettle of fish. And thank you so much for joining me today. I've absolutely loved our conversation. What one you said one tip you'd often say to people is to drink more water. If they are thinking of reducing their alcohol, though, what would you say would be the first thing someone should do? What one tip would you leave people today?
So I always caveat this. Now, if people are on this, the fine spectrum of being an alcoholic, I would always just say, go to a doctor. Let's assume that is Joe Schmo that, is having a few too many on a weekend, isn't really sure where to begin. This is going to sound a bit odd, but have your story ready as to why you're taking a break. And I actually advocate for this. Some people tell a couple of white lies. If you've got let's say you've gone out of the weekend, you've got absolutely smashed and your partner said, you do this again, I'm leaving and taking the kids. Next weekend, it's your best mate's 40th and you're thinking, oh God, going into the lion's den here and I don't want to let them down. Just say you're on antibiotics. Oh, I'm really sorry, start drinking tonight, I'm on antibiotics. It gets you through that moment, right, in desperation. But the other tangible stuff that I'd recommend for people is, again, doing your research before you go on a night out. So which bars are we going to? Oh, we're going to, the dog's fucking dinner, the fucking Nag's Head, if you want to call it, all those weird pub names that they've got. We're going down to the Dog and Duck on Saturday. Fine. Do a bit of research on the website. What alcohol-free options do they have? Because you don't just want to be that guy that's just stood in the corner drinking Diet Coke. So you might want to get a bit more creative. You don't want to feel left out. So I'll rattle through. I know you've asked me for one, but I'll reel them off.
No, it's all good.
Use effective communication, not just communication. If you say to your close friends, listen, guys, me and my missus had a really bad argument the other night, and I missed the kid's birthday party, and I did this, and I did that, and I did the other. I can't drink, and I want to take a break, and I'd really appreciate it if you all supported me this weekend. If you've got good friends, they might still neg you a little bit, but they'll understand. If they don't and they carry on the abuse, they're not a friend, they're a drinking buddy. Harsh reality. Then you want to do your research before you go on the night out. Then you want to have your story prepared if people do quiz you when you are out. And then you want to use the habit hack that I alluded to earlier. But in all honesty, mate, if I was to really want to stop, I would just take a break from going out to bars. If I was on a weight loss journey, I'm not going to McDonald's because I know that after a while I'm probably going to have a burger or two, and I'm not going to stand there for 5 hours seeing other people have chips and McFlurries and going, now I'll have the bag of fruit, please. It's not going to happen. So environment is huge. So if you can take a break, again, I'm not saying become a hermit, but if you can take 2 to 3 weeks off for yourself and then use that extra time where you're not hanging out of your ass to go, now I'm going to go to the gym. Now I'm going to be more present with the kids and the family, and we can go out and we can do things together. Now I'm going to make sure I'm doing more housework and I'm doing X, Y, Z, because when you are free from that hangover, you get more time. So then you can start channel that time to other things that are going to actually help you and move the needle. So yeah, I would take, those are some, general steps for people, and you can use it in whatever order you'd like, but it's picking one that works for you ultimately, but the one that has got the best success rate from a lot of people that we've helped remove and improve is taking the break from that social environment for a couple of weeks, then use the effective communication, and then look to habit hack along the way.
I absolutely love those. Adam, thank you so much for your time today and your insights. I've certainly sort of learned a lot and taken lots on board myself, and I'm sure everyone listening has. And I'll put your details, your LinkedIn and so on in the comments below so that people can give you abuse. Obviously, no, just so that, people can connect and if they want to learn more, get in touch. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to speak to me today.
My pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, cheers, buddy.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.